So for server, I'll just click enter. Database, I'll click enter. Port number is already taken, which is 5432. I'll hit enter. Username is already given, and now it is going to ask for password. So here I'll give my password so that I can connect to my PostgreSQL database. So it has given us a warning, but we have successfully connected to PostgreSQL. Alright, so now to check if everything is fine, you can just run a simple command to check the version of PostgreSQL that we have loaded. So the command is select version with two brackets and a semicolon. I'll hit enter. Okay, you can see the version PostgreSQL 13.2. Okay, now let me show you the command that will help you display all the databases that are already there. So if I hit /L and hit enter, it will give me the list of databases that are already there. So we have PostgreSQL, there's something called template 0, template 1, and we have a test database as well. Okay, now for our demo, I'll create a new database. So first I'll write create space database, and I'll give my database name as SQL_demo. I'll give a semicolon and hit enter. You see we have a message here that says create database. So we have successfully created our SQL demo database. Now if you want to connect to that database, you can use \c space SQL_demo. There you go. It says you are now connected to database SQL_demo. So here we can now create tables, we can perform insert operation, select operation, update, delete, alter, and much more. Now I'll show you how to connect to PostgreSQL using pgadmin. So when you install the PostgreSQL database, you will get the SQL cell, and along with that you also have the pgadmin. So I'll just search for pg. You can see here it has prompted pgadmin. I'll click on open. This will open on a web browser. You can see it has opened on Chrome, and this is how the interface of pgadmin looks like. It is a very basic interface. So on the top you can see the files, we have object, there's tools, and we have the help section as well. And here you have dashboard, properties, SQL, statistics, dependencies, dependence, and here on the left panel you have servers. Let me just expand this so it will connect to one of the databases. Alright, so if I go back, you see when I had run \L to display the databases, it had shown me PostgreSQL and test. Now you can see here we have the PostgreSQL database and the test database. Alright, now we also created one more database, which was SQL demo. So let me show you how to work on this pgadmin and the query tool. Alright, so I'll right click on SQL demo and I'll select query tool. I'll just show you how to run a few commands on the query tool. So let's say you want to see the version of PostgreSQL that you are using, so you can use the same command that we did on PSQL cell, which is select version closed with brackets and a semicolon. I'll select this, and here you can see we have the execute button. So if I hit execute or press F5, it will run that query. You can see we have the output at the bottom, and it says PostgreSQL 13.2 compiled by Visual C++. It has a 64-bit system. Okay, now let me tell you how to perform a few basic operations using PostgreSQL commands. So here let's say I'll write select 5 into 3. I'll give a semicolon, select this and hit F5. So this will run the query and it returns me the result, that is the product of 5 and 3, which is 15. Similarly, let's edit this. Let's say I'll write 5 plus 3 plus, let's say, 6. I'll select this and hit F5 to run it. it gives me the sum of 5 plus 3 plus 6, which is 14. Now the same task you can do it on this cell as well. Let me show you how to do it here. So let's say I'll write select. Let's say I want to multiply 7 into, let's say, 10. You know the result, it should be 70. If I hit enter, it gives me 70. Now this question mark column question wall, will deal with this later. Alright, let me go back to my PG admin again. Let me do one more operation. Let's say this time I'll write select 5 multiplied by, and within brackets I'll write 3 plus 4. I'll give a semicolon. So what SQL will do is, first it will evaluate the expression that is there inside the bracket, that is 3 plus 4, which is 7, and then it will multiply 7 with 5. Now let me select this and I'll hit execute. So you can see 7 multiplied by 5 is 35. Alright, now we'll go back to our shell, and here I'll show you how to create a table. So we are going to create a table called movies on the cell, that is PSQL cell. So here we will learn how you can create a table and then you can enter a few data into that table. Alright, let me just scroll down a bit. Okay, so my create command goes something like this. So I'll write create table followed by the table name, that is movies. Next, my movies table will have a few columns. Let's say I want the movie ID. After the column name, we need to give the data type. So movie ID, I'll keep it as integer. So integer is one of the data types that is provided by PostgreSQL. Next, my second column in the table would be the name of the movie. So I'll write movie underscore name. So all the variables or the column name should be as per SQL standards, so there shouldn't be any space between the column names. So I have used underscore to make it more readable. So my movie name will be of type varchar or variable character or varying character, and I'll give the size as 40 so that it can hold 40 characters maximum. Next, my third column will have the genre of the movie. So I'll write movie underscore genre. Again, genre is of type varchar. I'll give the size as, let's say, 30. And my final and the last column will have the IMDb ratings. So I'll write IMDb underscore ratings. Now the ratings will be of type real, since it can have floating or decimal point values. If I close the bracket, I'll give a semicolon and I'll hit enter. There you go. So we have successfully created a table called movies. Now let me go back to my PG admin. Alright, so here I have my database, that is SQL demo. I'll just right click on this and click on refresh. Now let me go to schemas. I'll just scroll down a bit. Here under schemas we have something called as tables. Let me expand this. Okay, so you can see we have a table called movies in the SQL demo database now, and here you can check the columns that we have just added. So our movies table has movie ID, movie name, genre and ratings. Alright, now there is another way to create a table. The previous time we created using the SQL cell. Now I'll tell you how to create a table using the PG admin. So here under tables, I'll right click and I have the option to create a table. So I'll select table. Okay, so it's asking me to give the name of the table. So this time we are going to create a table called students. So I'll write my table name as students. Alright, these will be default as it is. Now I'll go to the columns tab. So here you can create the number of columns that you want. So you can see on the right I have a plus sign. I'll just select this so that I can add a new row. So my first column would be, let's say, the student roll number. I'll write student underscore roll number. Again, the column name should be as per SQL standards. The data type I'm going to select is integer. Alright, now if you want, you can give these constraints such as not null, so that student roll number column will not have any null values. And I'll also check primary key, which means all the values will be unique for roll numbers. Alright, now if you want to add another column, you can just click on that plus sign, and let's say this time I want to give the student name as my second column. So I'll write student underscore name. Student name will be of type, let's say, character varying. If you want to give the length, you can specify the length as well, let's say 40. I'll click on the plus sign again to add my final column. The final column would be gender. So gender, I'll keep this time as type character. Okay, now you can click on save, so that will successfully create your students table. There you go. So here on the left panel you can see earlier we had only one table, that was movies, and now we have two tables. So one would be added, that was students. So if I expand this under columns, you can see we have the three columns here: student roll number, student name, and gender. You can also check the constraints. It will tell you if you have any constraints. So you can see it says students roll number, there's one primary key. Alright, now let me run a select statement to show the columns that we have in the movies table. So I'll write select star from movies, give a semicolon, and let me execute this. Okay, so here at the bottom you can see we have the movie ID, the movie name, movie genre, and IMDb ratings. Now the next command we are going to learn is how to delete a table. So there is one way by using the SQL command, that is drop table followed by the table name. Let's say you want to delete students. You can write drop table students, and that will delete the table from the database. This is one of the methods, so you just select and run it. Now the other way is to you just right click on the table name, and here you have delete / drop. If I select this, you get a prompt, are you sure you want to drop table students? I'll select yes. So you can see we have successfully deleted our students table. Alright, now let's perform a few operations and learn a few more commands in PostgreSQL. So to do that, I'm going to insert a few records to my movies table. So for that, I'll use my insert command. So I have my insert query written on a notepad. I'll just copy this and I'll paste it on my query editor. Okay, so let me just scroll down. Alright, so here you can see I have used my insert command. So I have written insert into the name of the table, that is movies, and we have the movie ID, the movie name, movie genre, and IMDb ratings, and these are the records or the rows. So we have the first record as movie ID 101. The name of the movie is a very popular movie, which is Vertigo. Then we have the movie genre, that is mystery. It is also a romance movie. And then we have the IMDb ratings, the current IMDb rating, that is 8.3. Similarly, we have Shawshank Redemption, we have 12 Angry Men, there's The Matrix, 7, Interstellar, and The Lion King. So there are total 8 records that we are going to insert into our movies table. So let me just select this and hit execute. Okay, you can see it has returned successfully 8 records. Now if I run select star from movies, you can see the records that are present in the table. So I'll write select star from movies. I'll select this and I'll execute it. There you go. At the bottom you can see 8 rows affected. If I scroll this down, you have the 8 records of information in the movies table. Alright, now if you want to describe the table, you can go to the SQL cell, and here if you write \d and the name of the table, that is movies, this will describe the table. So here you have the column names, this has the data type, and here you can specify if there are any null values or any constraints like default constant or primary key or foreign key and others. Let me go back to my pgadmin. Okay, now first and foremost, let me tell you how to update records in a table. So suppose you have an existing table and by mistake you have entered some wrong values and you want to update those records later. You can use the update query for that. So I'm going to update my movies table and I'll set the genre of movie ID 103, which is 12 Angry Men, from drama to drama and crime. So in our current table we only have genre as drama for 12 Angry Men. I am going to update this column, which is the movie genre, to drama and crime. Okay, so let me show you how to do it. I'll write update followed by the name of the table, that is movies. I'll go to the next line. I'll write set, then I'll give the column name, which is movie underscore genre, equal to, I'm going to set it as drama, comma, crime. Earlier it was only drama, and I'll give my condition using the where clause. We'll learn where clause in a bit. So I'll write where movie underscore ID is equal to 103. So here our movie ID is the unique identifier. So it will first look for movie ID 103. It will locate that movie and it'll change the genre to drama and crime. So now you can see the difference. Earlier we had 12 Angry Men as drama as the movie genre. Now if I run this update statement, okay, you can see we have successfully updated one record. Now let me run the select statement again. Okay, so here you can see if I scroll down, there you go. So movie ID 103, movie name 12 Angry Men, we have successfully updated the genre as drama, comma, crime. Okay, now let me tell you how you can delete records from a table. So for that you can use the delete command. So you'll write delete from the table name, that is movies, where, let's say I want to delete the movie ID 108, which is the Lion King. So I'll write where movie underscore ID is equal to 108. This is one of the ways to delete this particular movie, or you can give, let's say, where movie name is equal to the Lion King. Let me select this and I'll hit execute. Now if I run my select query again, you see this time it has returned 7 rows and you cannot find movie with movie ID 108, that was the Lion King. So we have deleted it. Alright, next we are going to learn about where clause in PostgreSQL. So to learn where clause, I'll be using the same movie table again. Let's say we want to filter only those records for which the IMDb ratings of the movies is greater than 8.7. So this is my updated table now. I want to display only those records or those movies whose IMDb ratings is greater than 8.7. So we'll display 12 Angry Men, which is 9. Then we are going to display The Dark Knight, which is again 9. And we are also going to display the Shawshank Redemption, which has 9.3. The rest of the movies have an IMDb rating less than 8.7, so we are not going to display those. Alright, so let me show you how to write a where clause. So I'll write select star from movies where I'll give my column name, that is IMDb underscore ratings is greater than, I'll use the greater than symbol, then I'll pass my value, that is 8.7. I'll give a semicolon and let's run it. I'll hit F5. There you go. So we have returned the Shawshank Redemption, The Dark Knight and 12 Angry Men because only these movies had IMDb ratings greater than 8.7. Okay. Now let's say you want to return only those movies which have IMDb ratings between 8.5 and 9. So for that I am going to use another operator called between along with the where clause. So let me show you how to use between with where clause. I'll write select star from movies where my IMDb underscore ratings is between, I'll write 8.5, I'll give an AND operator and 9.0. So all the movies that are between 8.5 and 9.0 ratings will be displayed. So let's select this and I'll run it. There you go. So we have returned The Dark Knight, The Matrix, The Seven, Interstellar, and we have the 12 Angry Men. So a few of the records that we missed out were, I think, Vertigo, which has 8.3, and there's one more. Alright. Now moving ahead, let's say you want to display the movies whose movie genre is action. You can see in our table we have a few movies whose genre is action movie. So you can do that as well. I'll write select star from movies where the movie genre, I'm writing this time in one line. You can break it into two lines as well. I'll write movie underscore genre, which is my column name, equal to, I'll give within single quotes action. Now why single quote? Because action is a string, hence we need to put it in single quotes. If I run this, there you go. So we had one movie in our table whose movie genre was action, that is The Dark Knight. Okay. Now you can also select particular columns from the table by specifying the column names. Now here in all the examples that we saw just now, we are using star. Now star represents, it will select all the columns in the table. If you want to select specific columns in the table, you can use the column names. So you can specify the column names in the select statement. Let me show you. Let's say you want to display the movie name and the movie genre from the table. So you can write select movie underscore name, comma, I'll give the next column as movie underscore genre from my table name, that is movies where, let's say, the IMDb underscore ratings is less than 9.0. So this time in our result it will only show two columns, that is movie name and movie genre. Let me run it. There you go. So these are the movie names and the movie genres you can see that have an IMDb ratings less than 9.0. Alright. Like how you saw the between operator, there is one more operator that you can use with the where clause, that is the in operator. So the in operator works like a or clause or an or operator. So let's say I want to select all the columns from my movies table where the IMDb ratings is in 8.7 or 9.0. If I run this, it will display only those records whose IMDb ratings is 8.7 or 9.0. Alright, so up to now we have looked at how you can work on basic operations in SQL like your mathematical operations. You saw how a select statement works. We created a few tables, then we inserted a few records to our tables. We saw how you can delete a table from your database, and we have performed a few operations like update, delete, and we saw how a where clause works. Now it's time to load a employee CSV file or a CSV dataset to PostgreSQL. So I'll tell you how you can do that. But first of all, before loading or inserting the records, we need to create an employee table. So let me first go ahead and create a new table called employees in our SQL_demo database. So I'll write create table. My name of the table would be employees. Next, I'm going to give my column names. So my first column would be employee ID. So the employee ID will be of type integer. It is not going to contain any null values, so I'll write not null, and I'll give my constraint as primary key. So the employee ID, as you know, is unique for all the employees in a company. So once I write primary key, it will ensure that there are no repetition in the employee IDs. Okay. Next, I'll have my employee name. So my employee name is going to be of type varchar, and I'll give my size as 40. Okay. Next, we'll have the email address of the employee. Again, email address would be of type varchar and the size is 40 again. I'll give another comma. This time we'll have the gender of the employee. Gender is again varchar of size, let's say 10. Okay. Now let's include a few more columns. We'll have the department column. So I'll write department varchar. Let's say the size is 40. Then let's say we'll have another column that is called address. So the address column will have the country names of the employees. Address is also varchar. And finally we have the salary of the employee. Salary, I'm going to keep it as type real. So real will ensure it will have decimal or floating point values. Okay, so now let me select this create table statement and execute it. Alright, so we have successfully created our table. If you want, you can check by using select star from employees. Let me select this and I'll hit execute. Alright, you can see we have our employee ID as primary key. There's employee name, email, gender, there's department, address and salary. But we don't have any records for each of these columns. Now it's time for us to insert a few records to our employees table. Now to do that, I'm going to use a CSV file. So let me show you how the CSV file looks like. Okay, so now I am on my Microsoft Excel sheet, and on the top you can see this is my employee data.csv file. Here we have the employee ID, the employee name, email, gender, there's department, address and salary. Now this data was generated using a simulator, so this is not validated, and you can see it has a few missing values. So under email column we have a few employees who don't have an email ID. Then you can see under department also there are some missing values here as well. Alright, so we'll be importing this table or the records present in this CSV file onto PostgreSQL. Alright, so here in the left panel under tables, let me right click and first refresh this. There you go. So initially we had only movies table and now we also have the employees table. Now what we need to do is I'll right click again, and here you see we have the option to import or export. Let me click on this, and I don't want to export, I need to import, so I'll switch on import. Alright, now it is asking me to give the file location. So let me show you how to get the file location. So this is my file location actually. So my Excel file, which was this, is present In my E drive under the data analytics folder, I have another folder called PostgreSQL, and within the PostgreSQL folder I have my CSV file, that is employee data.csv. So I'll just select this. You can either do it like this or you can browse and do. Okay, now my format is CSV. Next, I'm going to select my headers as yes, and then let me go to columns and check if everything is fine. Alright, so I have all my columns here. Let's click on OK. You can see I have a message here which says import underscore export. Alright, so here you can see successfully completed. We can verify this by using select star from employees again. If I run this, alright, let me close this. There you go, it says 150 rows affected, which means we have inserted 150 rows of information to our employees table. You can see we have the employee ID, these are all unique. We have the employee name, the email, we have the address and the salary. Let me scroll down so that, okay, you can see we have 150 rows of information. That means we have 150 employees in our table. Okay, now we are going to use this employees table and explore some advanced SQL commands. Now there is an operator called distinct. So say if I write select address from employees, this is going to give me 150 address of all the employees. There's some problem here, I did a spelling mistake. There should be another D. If I run this again, our query will return 150 rows. You can see we have the different country names under address, that is Russia, we have France, there's United States, we have Germany, okay, and I think we have Israel as well. Yeah. Now suppose you want to display only the unique address or the country names, you can use the distinct keyword before the column name. So if I write select distinct address from employee, it will only display the unique country names present in the address column. If I run this, see, it has returned us 6 rows of information. So we have Israel, Russia, Australia, United States, France and Germany. Alright, now as I said, there are a few null values which don't have any information. So you can use the isNull operator in SQL to display all the null values that are there. Suppose I want to display all the employee names where the email ID has a null value. So I'll write select star from employees where email is null. So this is another way to use your where clause. If I select and run this, there you go. So you see here, for all these employee names, there was no email ID present in the table. So it has returned us 16 rows of information. So around 10% of employees do not have an email ID, and if you see, a few of them do not have an email ID and also they don't have a department. So if you want to know for those employees which do not have a department, you can just replace where department is null instead of where email is null. Now if I select this, okay, it has returned us 9 rows of information, which means around 5% of employees do not have a department. Moving ahead, now let me show you how the order by clause works in SQL. Now the order by is used to order your result in a particular format, let's say in ascending or descending order. So the way to use is, let's say I want to select all the employees from my table, so I'll write select star from employees order by. I want to order the employees based on their salary, so I'll write order by salary. Let me select and run it. Okay, there is some problem, I made a spelling mistake, this should be employees. Let me run it again. Okay, now if you mark the output, our result has been ordered in ascending order. So all the employees which have salary greater than $45,000 appear at the top, and the employees with the highest salaries appear at the bottom. So this has been ordered in ascending order, which means your SQL or PostgreSQL orders it in ascending order by default. Now let's say you want to display the salaries in descending order so that all the top ranking employees in terms of salary appear at the top. So you can use the DESC keyword, which means descending. If I run this, you can see the difference now. So all the employees with the highest salary appear at the top, while those with the lowest salaries appear at the bottom. So this is how you can use an order by clause. Okay, so now I want to make a change in my existing table. So here if you see, under the address column we only have the country names, so it would be better if we change the name of the address column to country. So I want to rename a column. You can do this using the alter command in PostgreSQL. So let me show you how to rename this column, that is address. So I'll write alter table followed by the table name, which is employees. Then I'm going to use rename column address. I'll write to, I want to change it to country. If I give a semicolon and hit execute, it will change my column name to country. Now you can verify this. If I run the select statement again, there you go. Earlier it was address column and now we have successfully changed it to country column. Okay, let me come down. Now it's time for us to explore a few more commands. So this time I'm going to tell you how an AND and an OR operator works in SQL. So you can use the AND and OR operator along with the where clause. So let's say I want to select the employees who are from France and their salary is less than $80,000. So let me show you how to do it. I'll write select star from employees where I'm going to give two conditions. So I'll use the AND clause or the AND operator here. I'll write where country is equal to France. Now mark here, I'm not using address because we just updated our table and changed the column name from address to country. So I'll write country equal to France, and my next condition would be my salary needs to be less than $80,000. I'll give a semicolon. Let me run this. Alright, so it has returned 19 rows of information. You can see all my country names are France and the salary is less than $80,000. So this is how you can use or give multiple conditions in a where clause using the AND operator. Now let's say you want to use the OR operator, and let's say you want to know the employees who are from country Germany, or the department should be sales. So I'll write select star from employees where country is equal to Germany, and instead of AND I'm going to use OR. Their department should be sales. Okay, now let's see the output. I'll hit F5 this time to run it. Alright, so we have 23 rows of information now. Let me scroll to the right. You can see either the country is Germany or the department is sales. You see one of them in the table. So here for the first record the country was Germany, the second record the department was sales, again for the fourth record the country is Germany. So this is how the OR condition works. So if one of the conditions are true, it will return the result. It need not be that both the conditions should satisfy. Now in PostgreSQL there is another feature that is called limit. So PostgreSQL limit is an optional clause on the select statement. Now this is used as a constraint which will restrict the number of rows returned by the query. Suppose you want to display the top 5 rows in a table, you can use the limit operator. Suppose you want to skip the first 5 rows of information and then you want to display the next 5, you can do that using limit and offset. So let's explore how limit and offset works. I'll write select star from employees. Let's say I'll use my order by clause. I'll write order by salary, let's say in descending, and limit it to 5. This is going to display the top 5 employees which have the highest salary. If I run this, there you go. You see it has given us 5 rows of information and these are the top 5 employees that have the highest salary. Okay, so this is one method of, or one way of using the limit clause. Now in case you want to skip a number of rows before returning the result, you can use offset clause placed before the limit clause. So I'll write select star from employees, let's say order by salary descending. This time I'm going to use limit 5 and offset 3. So what this query will do is it will skip the first 3 rows and then it will print the next 5 rows. If I run this, there you go. So this is how the result looks like. Okay. Now there is another clause which is called fetch. Let me show you how that works. I'll copy my previous SQL query. I'll paste it here. And here, after descending, I'm going to write fetch first 3 row only. So my fetch is going to give me the first 3 rows from the top. There you go. It has given us the first 3 rows and you can see the top 3 employees that have the highest salary since we ordered it in descending order of salary. Alright. You can also use the offset along with the fetch clause. I'll copy this again and let me paste it here. Now after descending I am going to write offset, let's say 3 rows, and fetch first 5 rows only. So what this SQL query is going to do is it will skip the first 3 rows of information and then it is going to display the next 5 rows. It is going to work exactly the same as we saw for this query. Let me run it. There you go. So these are the first 5 rows of information after excluding the top 3 rows. Alright. We have another operator that is called as like in PostgreSQL. So like is used to do pattern matching. So suppose you have a table that has the employee names. You forgot the full name of an employee but you remember the few initials, so you can use the like operator to get an idea as to which employee name it is. Now let's explore some examples to learn how the like operator works in PostgreSQL. So suppose you want to know the employees whose name starts with A. So for that you can use the like operator. Let me show you how to do it. So I want to display the employee name and let's say I want to know their email IDs from the table name that is employee, where since I want to know the employees whose name starts with A, so I'll write employee name like. Now to use the pattern is within single quotes I'll write A and then followed by percentage. Now this means the employee name should have an A in the beginning, and percentage suggests it can have any other letter following A, but in the beginning or the starting should be A. If I run this, so there is an error here. The name of the table is employees and not employee. Let's run this again. There you go. You can see there are 16 employees in our table whose name starts with A. You can see this column employee name, all of them have a letter A in the beginning. Okay, now let me just copy this command or the query. I'll paste it here. Let's say this time you want to know the employees whose name starts with S. So instead of A, I'll write S. So this means the starting letter should be S and followed by it can have any other letter. If I run this, so there are 10 employees in the table whose name starts with S. Okay, let's copy the query again, and this time I want to know the employees whose name ends with D. Now the way to do it is, instead of a percentage, I'll write this time percentage D, which means at the beginning it can have any letter, but the last letter in the string or in the name should be ending with D. Now let me copy and run this. So there are 13 employees in the table whose name ends with a D. You can see it here. Alright, now let's say you want to find the employees whose name contains ISH or have ISH in their names. So the way to do is something like this. So I'll copy this. Now here, instead of a percentage, I'll replace this with percentage ISH percentage. Now this means that in the beginning it can have any letter, and towards the end also it can have any letter, but this ISH should appear within the name. Let me run and show it to you. Okay, so there is one employee whose name contains ISH. You can see here there is an ISH in the last name of the employee. Alright, now suppose you want to find the employee name which has U as the second letter. It can have any letter in the beginning, but the second letter of the employee name should have U. Now the way to do is, I'll copy this, and instead of a%, I'll write underscore U followed by %. Now this underscore, you can think of a blank that can take any one letter. So the beginning can start with A, B, C, D or any of the 26 alphabets we have. Then it should contain U as the second letter followed by any other letter or letters. Let me run this. Okay, so there are 10 employees in the table whose name has a U as the second letter. You can see these. Okay, now moving ahead, let me show you how you can use basic SQL functions or inbuilt functions. So we'll explore a few mathematical functions now. So let's say you want to find the total sum of salary for all the employees. So for that you can use the sum function that is available in SQL. So I'll write sum, and inside the sum function I'll give my column name that is salary from my table name that is employees. Let's see the result. This will return one unique value. There you go. Now this is the total salary. Since the value is very large, it has given in terms of E. Now one thing to note here is, if you see the output, the column says sum real. So this output column is not really readable. So SQL has a method which can fix this, that is called an alias. So since we are doing an operation of summing the salary column, we can give an alias to this operation by using the as keyword. So if I write sum of salary as, let's say total salary, then this becomes my output column, you can see the difference if I run this. Okay, you can see now in the output we have the total salary. Now this is much more readable than the previous one. So this is a feature in Excel where you can use or give alias names to your columns or your results. Now similarly, let's say you want to find the average of salary for all the employees. Now SQL has a function called AVG which calculates the mean or the average salary. If I write AVG and I can edit my alias name as well, let's see, I'll write mean salary. Let's run it. You can see the average salary for all the employees. It's around $81,000. Okay, now there are two more important functions that SQL provides us, which is max and minimum. So if I write select maximum or max, which is the function name of salary, as let's say instead of total I'll write maximum. So this will return me the maximum salary of the employee. Let's run it and see what is the maximum salary that is present in the salary column. Alright, so we have $1,19,616 as highest salary of one of the employees. Similarly, you can use the min function as well. I'll just write minimum and this will return me the minimum salary of one of the employees in the table. I'll replace the alias name as minimum. Okay, now run it. This will give me the minimum salary that is present in our table. So it is $45,685. Okay. Now let's say you want to find the count of department in the employees table. You can use the count function. So if I write select count, let's say I want to know the distinct department names, I can write inside the count function distinct department as total departments from employees. Let's run this. This will return me the total number of departments that are there. So it gives me there are 12 departments. Okay, now let me show you one more thing here. If I write select department from employees, let's run this. Okay, so it has returned me 150 rows of information, but what I'm going to do is I'll place my distinct keyword here just before the column name so that I can verify how many departments are there in total. There you go. So there are 13 departments and one of them is null. So moving ahead, we'll replace this null with a department name by updating our table. Okay, so now let's update our department column. So what we are going to do is wherever the department has a null value, we are going to assign a new department called analytics. So earlier we have also learned how to use the update command, so I'm going to show it again. So we'll write update followed by the table name, that is employees. I'm going to set my column, that is department, equal to, within single quotes, my name of the department would be analytics, where department is, I'll say null. So wherever the department has a null value, we'll replace those information with department, that is analytics. Let's run this. You can see query returned successfully. Now let's say I'll run this command again, and this time you can see the difference. There you go. So we have 13 rows of information and there is no null department now. We have added and new department, that is analytics. Okay, now we are going to explore two more crucial commands or clauses in SQL, that is group by and having. So let's learn how group by clause works in PostgreSQL. So the group by statement groups rows that have the same values into summary rows. For example, you can find the average salary of employees in each country or city or department. So the group by clause is used in collaboration with the select statement to arrange identical data into groups. So suppose you want to find the average salary of the employees based on countries, you can use the group by clause. So let me show you how to do it. I'll write select. I want the countries and the average salary for each country. So I'll use the average function, that is avg, and inside the function I'll pass my column, that is salary. I'll give an alias name as, let's say, average underscore salary from my table name, that is employees. Next, I'm going to use my group by clause. So I'll write group by. Since I want to find the average salary for each country, so I'll write group by country name. Let's give a semicolon and let me run it. I'll use F5. There you go. So here on the left you can see the country names. We have Israel, Russia, Australia, United States, France and Germany, and on the right, the second column, you can see the average salary for each of these countries. Now you can also order the result in whichever way you want. Suppose you want to arrange the results based on the average salary, so you can use the order by clause after the group by clause. So I'll write order by. Here you can use the alias name, that is average salary. This is actually average underscore salary, and let's say I want to arrange it in descending order, so I'll write DESC. Now let's run this. You can mark the difference in the average salary column. There you go. So as per our result, in United States the average salary is the highest, and if I scroll down, the average salary is the lowest in Germany. Now let's see one more example using group by. Suppose this time you want to find the maximum salary of male and female employees. You can do that too. So let me show you how to do it. So I'll write select. This time we want to find the maximum salary based on gender. So I'll select my gender column, comma, and this time I'll use my max function. Since I want to find the maximum salary for male and female employees, I'll give an alias name as maximum underscore salary from my table, that is employees. Group by, I'll write gender. Okay, so let's run this. There you go. You can see, so one of the female employees had a highest salary of $1,19,616, while of that of a male was $1,17,654. Alright, now suppose you want to find the count of employees based on each country. You can use the count function along with the group by clause. So I'll write the select statement, select. Since I want to count the employees based on each country, so I'll first select my country column and then I'm going to use the count function. I'll write count emp underscore id from my table name, that is employees. I'm going to group it by country. So this query will give me the total number of employees from each country. You can see here Israel there are 4 employees, in Australia there are 4 employees, in Russia we have 80 employees, in France there were 31, in United States we have 27, so on and so forth. Now let me scroll down. Okay, now it's time to explore one more clause, a very important clause that is used in PostgreSQL, that is having. So the having clause works like the where clause. The difference is that where clause cannot be used with aggregate functions. The having clause is used with the group by clause to return those rows that meet a condition. So suppose you want to find the countries in which the average salary is greater than $80,000. So you can use the group by clause and the having clause to get the result. So I'll write my select statement as select country, comma, I want the average salary. So I'll write AVG of salary. I can give an alias name as average salary from employees. Now I'm going to group it by each country. So group by country column. Since I want to find the countries in which the average salary is greater than 80,000, so I'll use having clause after the group by clause. I'll write having average of salary is greater than 80,000. Now this condition cannot be specified in the where clause, so we need a having clause. You cannot use aggregate functions along with where clause. Let me just run it now. There you go. So we have Russia and United States where the average salary is greater than $80,000. Alright. Now let's say you want to find the count of employees in each country where there are less than 30 employees. So for this I am going to use the count function. First let me select the country column. Then I'm going to use the count function, and in the count function I'm going to pass my employee ID so that we can count the number of employees from my table, that is employees. Now if you want you can use an alias name for this as well, but I am just skipping it for the time being. I'll write group by country. Next I'll write having count of employee ID less than 30. So this will return me the countries in which there are less than 30 employees. Let's run it. You can see here Israel, Australia, United States and Germany are the countries in which there are less than 30 employees. Okay. Now if you want you can use the order by clause as well. So suppose I'll write here order by count of employee ID. So what this will do is it will arrange my result in ascending order of employee ID count. There you can see we have successfully arranged our result in ascending order of employee IDs. Okay. Next, we are going to explore one more feature of PostgreSQL, that is of using a case statement. Now in PostgreSQL, the case expression is same as if-else statement in any other programming language. It allows you to add if-else logic to the query to form a powerful query. Now let me just scroll down and I'll show you how to use a case statement. This is very similar to your if-else statement that you use on Excel, in C++, in Python or any other programming language. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a SQL query that will create a new column, and the name of the column would be, let's say, salary range. So I'm going to divide my salary. Suppose if the salary is greater than $45,000 and if it's less than $55,000, in the new column, that is salary range, we are going to assign a value low salary. Now if the salary is greater than $55,000 and if it is less than $80,000, we are going to assign a value that is medium salary. If the salary is greater than $80,000, we'll assign a value high salary. So all this we are going to do using our case expression in PostgreSQL. So I'll start with my select statement, but before that let me show you how to write a comment in PostgreSQL. So you can write a comment by giving a double dash. Comments are very helpful because they make your codes or the scripts readable. I'll write case expression in PostgreSQL. Similarly, if you want, you can go to the top and let's say here you can write with double dash having clause. Okay, let's come down. So I'll write my select statement as select. I want the department, the country and the salary column. I'll give a comma and I'll start with my case statement. I'll write case when my salary is greater than 45,000 and my salary is less than 55,000, then the result would be, within single quotes I'll write low salary. So this is exactly like an if-else condition. Next, I'll write another case when salary is greater than 55,000 and salary is less than, let's say, 80,000, then the result would be medium salary. And finally, I'll give my last condition, that is when salary is greater than 80,000, then the result will be high salary. Let me write this in a single line, then high salary. Now one thing to remember, in PostgreSQL the quotes are insensitive, so you can write your select statement in capital, in lowercase or in sentence case. Similarly, I can write case as small c or you can write as capital C. Alright, now moving ahead, after this I am going to write end. I'll give an alias name as salary range. Now this is going to be my new column in the output. Let me just come down. After this we need to give our table name from employees. I'll order it by salary descending. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'll first select department, country and salary column from my employees table, and then I'm creating a new column that is salary range, and I'm specifying the range. So I have three conditions here, for low salary, for medium salary and high salary. So let's run this and see the output. There you go. Here you can see we have added a new column known as salary range, and we have ordered our salary in descending order, so all the highest salaries appear at the top. If I just scroll down, you can see we have medium salaries here, and if I scroll down further you can see these low salaries. So case statements are really useful when you want to create a new column based on some conditions in the existing table. Alright, now moving ahead, we are now going to see how to write subqueries in PostgreSQL. So subqueries, we write a query inside another query, which is also known as nested query. So suppose we want to find the employee name, department, country and salary of those employees whose salary is greater than the average salary. So in such cases you can use subqueries. Now let me show you how to write a query inside another query. First I'll write the select statement. I am going to select the employee name, comma, I want the department, comma, I also want to display the country name and the salary from the employees table, where my salary should be greater than the average salary. So after this where salary greater than, I am going to use brackets and write my subquery, that is select average salary from employees. Now let me break it down for you. So first we are going to select the average salary from the employees. So this particular SQL statement will find the average salary from the table. We'll compare this average salary with salaries of all the employees. So whichever employee has the salary greater than the average salary will display their names, the department, country, and their original salary. So if you want, you can run this statement as well. Let me select this statement and run it for you. You can see we have written the average salary of all the employees, which is nearly $81,466. So we want the salaries of the employees to be greater than this average value. So let me run this and see how many employees have a salary greater than the average salary. There you go. So we have around 75 employees whose average salary or whose salary is greater than the average salary. Alright. Now moving ahead, this time I'm going to tell you how to use some inbuilt functions. We'll learn some inbuilt mathematical functions and string functions that are available in PostgreSQL. So I'll just give a comment. There's another way to write a comment. Instead of a double dash, you can use the /, an asterisk, and inside the asterisk you can write, let's say, SQL functions, and you need to close this. So I'll give another asterisk and a /. So this is also a comment in PostgreSQL. Alright, so first of all we'll explore a few math functions. So there is a function called ABS which is used to find the absolute of a value. So if I write select ABS of, let's say, -100, it is going to return me +100 or just 100, because as you know, the absolute of any value will remove the negative sign involved in that value. There you go. So our original input was -100, the absolute of -100 is +100. Next, let's see another function that is called greatest. So the greatest function in PostgreSQL will return the greatest number in a range of numbers. So suppose I write select greatest. Inside the greatest function, I'll pass in a few numbers, let's say 2. I'm just randomly passing a few numbers. Let's say 490, let's say 56.5, and let's say 70. I'll give a semicolon. Let me run this. You will see the greatest function will return the greatest integer value or greatest number that is present in the range of numbers that we have provided. So in this case, 90 was the largest number or the greatest number, so we got the result as 90. Again, you can use an alias for each of these statements. Now, like greatest, we also have a function called least, which is going to return the least number present in a range of numbers. If I run this, so the result is 2, because 2 is the least number that is present in this selection. Alright, now there's a function called mod which is going to return the remainder of a division. So suppose I write select mod, and this takes two parameters, let's say 54 divided by 10. As you can guess, the remainder is 4, and so is our result. You can see it has returned the remainder 54 divided by 10, the remainder is 4. Alright, if I scroll down, now let's see how to use the power function. So I'll write select power, let's say I want to know power 2, 3, which is 2 cube, that is 8. Let me just run this. There you go. So the result is 8. You can also check, let's say, power of 5, 3, it should be 125. Alright. Next, you can use the sqrt function that is available in PostgreSQL to find the square root of a number. I'll write sqrt, and let's say I want to find the square root of 100. You can guess the result. The output should be 10. If I run this, You can see the output here 10. Let's say I want to find the square root of, let's say 144. You can again guess the result. It should be 12. Let's verify it. Okay, there is some error. Let me verify it again. There you go. It is 12. Now there are a few trigonometric functions as well. You can use the sine function, the cos function, and the tan function. Let's say I want to know the sine of 0. If you have studied high school mathematics, you would know the sine of 0 is 0. You can see the result, it is 0. Let's say you want to know sine 90. If I run it, you can see the output here, 0.89. Alright. Now there are other functions like ceiling and floor that you can use. So let me show you what the ceiling and floor function does. I'll write ceiling. Let's say I'll pass my floating value as 6.45 and let me run it. You can see the ceiling function returns the next highest integer, that is 7 in this case, since the next highest integer after 6.45 is 7. Let's see what the floor function does, and let me run it. As you can see, the floor function returns the next lowest integer, that is 6 in this case, or the nearest lowest integer to any provided decimal value. Okay. Now that we saw how to use mathematical functions, there are a few string functions available in PostgreSQL. So let's explore them as well. I'll write string functions. Okay. We'll scroll down. Cool. There's a function called character length that gives you the length of a text string. Suppose I write select, give the function as character length, and inside this function I am going to pass in a text. Let's say India is a democracy. This is my text. Let me run this. Okay, you can see the result here, which is 20, since there are 20 characters in my string that I have provided. Alright. Now there's another function called concat in PostgreSQL. So concat is basically used to merge or combine multiple strings. So I'll write select concat, within brackets I'll give the text string now. Let's say I want to combine PostgreSQL, I'll give a space, comma, I want to merge PostgreSQL is, I'll give another comma and write my final word, that is interesting. Now what we have done is, inside the concat function we have passed in separate strings, and now using the concat function we want to merge the three strings. Let's see what the result is. I'll run it. Alright, let me just expand this. You can see here we have concatenated the three strings successfully, so the output is PostgreSQL is interesting. Okay. Now there are functions like left, right, and mid in PostgreSQL. So what the left function does is, it will extract the number of characters that you specify from the left of a string. Let's say I'll write select left, and I'll pass in my text string as India is a democracy. I'll copy this and I'll paste it here. Let's say I want to extract the first 5 characters from my string, so I'll give 5. So what it will do is, it will count 5 characters from left, so 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. If I run this, it should ideally print India for me. There you go, it has printed India for us. Alright, similarly you can use the right function to extract few characters from the right of a string. Let's say you want to extract, let's say I'll give 12 characters from right, so from here onwards it will count 12 characters. I'll change left to right now. Let me select this and run it. So you can see here, this is the output. From the right, it has counted 12 characters and returned a democracy. Okay. Now there is a function called repeat. So the repeat function is going to repeat a particular string the number of times you specify. Let's say I want to select and use my repeat function, and inside the repeat function I'm going to pass in, let's say, India, and I want India to be displayed 5 times. I'll give a semicolon and run it. In the output you can see India has been printed 5 times. Okay, let's scroll down. There is another function, a string function in PostgreSQL called as reverse. So what reverse function is going to do is, it is going to print any string passed as an input in reverse order. So if I write select reverse, and inside the reverse function I'll pass in my string, that is India is a democracy. I'm going to use the same string. I'll copy this and I'll paste it here. I'll close the quotes and the brackets. Let's print this. You can see it here. India is a democracy has been printed in reverse order. There you go. Alright. Now this time we explored a few inbuilt functions that are already present in PostgreSQL. Now PostgreSQL also has the feature where you can write your own user-defined functions. So now we will learn how to write a function of our own in PostgreSQL. So let's create a function to count the total number of email IDs that are present in our employees table. So for this we'll write a function, a user-defined function. So let me give my comment as user-defined function. Okay. So let me start by first writing create. So this is the syntax to write a function in PostgreSQL. So I'll write create or replace function. Then I'll give my function name as count emails. And as you know, functions have brackets. Then I'll write returns, the return type, as integer. Then an alias with dollar symbol. I'll write total emails, since I'm going to display the total number of email IDs that are present in my table. I'll close the dollar symbol. Then I'm going to declare a variable. The variable name is going to be total underscore emails. This is of type integer. I'll write begin, and inside begin I'll write my select statement. So I'll write select. I want to count the email IDs that are present, so I'll pass my column name, that is email, into total emails from my table name, that is employees. I'll give a semicolon and then we'll write return total emails. As you know, user-defined functions often return a value, so hence we have mentioned the return statement as well. And now I'm going to end my function. Then the next syntax would be, let me just scroll down. Okay, so here I'll give my dollar symbol again, followed by total underscore emails. Next I'll write my language as PostgreSQL. So the way to mention is PL, P, PostgreSQL. Let's give a semicolon and end it. So this is my user defined function that I have written. So I created a function with the function name count_emails, and this would return integer as an alias which is total_emails. We declared that variable as an integer. Then we started with our begin statement that has my select statement where I am selecting the count of email IDs that are present in the employees table, and I am putting the value into total_email. So I have used the into keyword, and this returns the result as total_emails, and I have ended. Let's run this. Okay, there is some problem. There is an typo, so this should be integer. Okay, let me run it once again. There you go. So you've successfully created a user defined function. Now the final step is to call that function. Now to call this function, I'm going to use my select statement and the function name, that is count_emails. I'll give a semicolon. Let's execute this. There you go. So here you can see there are 134 email IDs present in our employees table. Now one thing to mark is there are total 150 employees in the table, but out of them 134 employees have email IDs, the rest of them don't have, so they would ideally have null values. Alright, so that brings us to the end of this demo session on PostgreSQL tutorial. Let me go to the top. We have explored a lot. So we started with checking the version of PostgreSQL. Then we saw how to perform basic mathematical operation, that is to add, subtract, multiply. Then we saw how to create a table that was movies. We inserted a few records to our movies table. Then we used our select clause. We updated a few values. Then we deleted one row of information. Then we learned how to use the where clause. We learned how to use the between operator. We also learned how to use the in operator. Let me scroll down. We created a table called employees, and then we learned how the distinct keyword works. We also learned how to use isNull with where clause. We learned about the order by clause. We saw how to alter or rename a column. Then we explored a few more examples on where clause, where we learned about and OR operator. Then we learned how to use limit and offset, as well as the fetch operator or the fetch keyword in PostgreSQL. Moving further, we learned about the like operator in SQL, which was used to perform pattern recognition or pattern matching, you can say. Here we saw how to use basic inbuilt PostgreSQL functions like sum, average, minimum, count, maximum. Next, we saw how to update a value in a column using PostgreSQL update command. We learned how to use group by. Then we learned how to use having clause. Then we learned how to use case expressions in PostgreSQL. So we saw how case expression is similar to our if-else in any other programming language. We explored a few mathematical and string functions, and finally we wrote our own user-defined function. So that brings us to the end of this tutorial on PostgreSQL. Now if you want to get this SQL file that we have used in the demo, you can give your email IDs in the comment section, and our team will share this SQL file with you over email. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section. Thank you for watching and keep learning.